I would encourage you to pick 2 of them. Pick 2 that make you happy. I like blogging and I like Twitter. And I also sometimes like to do YouTube and speaking, but I don't spend a lot of time on Stack Overflow, and that's okay. Don't let these things make you feel guilty that you're not doing one of them. This is not a checklist. This is an experience opportunity. I think back in the day when I was coming up, people did not think about personal branding. They thought about being themselves, and they went onto the internet in order to be themselves. But then people became influencers, and they became fake versions of themselves, almost as if they are actors in a movie pretending to be someone else. I think people need to come back to the original intent of the internet. If this is a place for everyone, it needs to be a place where we can all be ourselves. So that's why I like to say, I'll give a talk on personal branding. And everyone's like, oh, I want to learn about personal branding. And then I sneak attack and I say, no, your personal brand is to be yourself. That's what the internet was for. Tim Berners-Lee did not make a website and the internet for Instagram influencers.
The purpose of testing is not to just to fix bugs or reduce their own manual effort. It is to prevent the issues, prevent the problems that might come. And for that, we need some active collaboration, we need some changes, and that needs to be explained to your management that what are the value adds that you can seek from creating this kind of a program, not just a project, but a program where we all own up to quality, we all own up to contributing towards automation, we all own up to reducing the bugs, preventing the bugs.
So in summary, that what I can say is neural states are defined by states of synchronous oscillations in distributed brain regions. In a series of experiments in with speech perception and visual attention, we have shown that decoherence of brain rhythms is critical when cognitive load increases or integration demands rapidly become complex, right? So decorrelation or decoherence is something that the future studies should understand, and the synchronization and desynchronization maybe can hold a key to understand or formulate a new kind of brain, grand unified theory of brain function. So across this, you have signals, you have percepts, and what you have developed is you develop concepts, right? So these, what we think is going on is in the brain is at the level of the concept. So conflicts in this perception can actually provide us the gateway to understand the brain processing.
We now know what Lighthouse CI is. We now know what GitHub Actions are. What do we do exactly right now? So in this talk, what we are going to do is that we will assert some of the matrices for performance. So we will assert that the first contentful pane matrix is less than 4 seconds. And that means that when someone opens your application, it takes less than 4 seconds to actually see some content there, some meaningful content. And then we are also going to assert that the score of performance and accessibility is above 90%. We are going to see that the SEO is 100%. We are doing no compromises there. And then we are also going to see if our web application is a PWA and it's installable. We are also going to see if it's available offline, that is, it can be used offline, and also the app registers a service worker. So these are some assertions that we are going to do, and we are going to test that against the Lighthouse CI.
Writing all that code, making it work, maybe writing tests, maybe not bothering yet. And they hand that code over a couple of weeks later to the customer, to the API consumer, to the mobile developers, the web people, whatever. And they ask, is this any good? The customers might then play around with it. Maybe they spot some bugs, but mostly they're trying to give feedback on whether the API will satisfy their needs, whether all of the data they need is there, whether they need to make 100 different requests to get the information that they need. Just trying to find out if the API is useful and then give feedback. And then you have to write a bunch more code or change that code and update all the controllers and all the models and all the tests and all this stuff. And that feedback loop takes quite a long time. So you can actually end up being forced to skip some improvements that you would have liked to have made because you have to get it into production on time.
So let's get into this. So let's say we have some code. It's not really important to understand all of the code here, but these are just little snippets of code. And in functional programming, we start to subdivide these. So the first and most important distinction we can make is that some of these pieces of code depend on when they are called. And these are called actions. So if I send an email, that depends on when it's called. If I send an email today, it's different from sending it in 6 weeks.
It only dawned on me when writing this. I've been leading teams for 15 years, which is a long time. And it's not 300, only 100. It's a lot of people and a lot of responsibility. But yeah, so, Rent the Runway, I'm a VP of engineering, and I have teams both in our Irish office and in New York City, though everybody's pretty much remote at this point. And, my career has been around, leading teams, but kind of in a whole other thread. Yeah, I'm the creator of SAS and Haml. Both of them were sort of first in their categories. And Haml is a very interesting language. It's not as popular as it used to be, but SAS at this point is now pretty much officially sponsored by Google. We have teams at Microsoft who are sponsoring it, and so it's a big thing now. And I used to work for the Wikimedia Foundation also and ran all their mobile stuff sort of back in the day. I want to talk about some of the other attributes of these different roles. So a leader, it's a much larger scope of a job, so your impact is larger. And when you're an individual contributor, typically speaking, you're focused more on a direct outcome. On the downside, leaders, things are more abstract. And developers were people who write code. I started writing code. That's how I got into this business. And that's direct, right? You're so used to things that are physical and direct and happen. It's a little more difficult to be in the abstract zone. And there's more unknowns. So by the time a decision's gotten down to an individual contributor, if you've done your job right, there's technical stuff to figure out, but everything else should have mostly been understood about what success is. But towards the top, it is very vague. You have to figure out a lot of stuff. And I'll get to this one later, but this is true that you might naively think that like a VP, we just walk around feeling satisfied all day.
Yeah, I think just if there was one takeaway from these particular slide is if you want to get into the PM role, after analyzing the pros and cons, you decide that this is the right field for me. Then one of the most important things you can do is think like a PM to get into that mindset. So if you're looking at a laptop or if you're looking at a phone or a particular app, always think about what would I do if I were the PM of the product. So that makes you think about something very critically that, hey, yeah, the sign-up flow actually was not good because of XYZ reason. So if I were the PM, I would actually change things in a certain way. So always be kind of curious and figure out if you were the PM of the product, what would you do? And there is no better way to kind of get into the PM mindset than that.
Career confusions haunting you, want to know about some new path, or you are facing something similar situation like this guy. I have no idea what's going on in my life. Apart from COVID and the lockdown, a lot of other things are happening, but I'm not sure what path my career is, where should I move to, right? Yeah. I guess you have much more clarity, you don't feel like this, but then in case you have something similar that you resonate, a feeling like this, I'll try to help you out on a new career.